I told her, like, that can be our little secret.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, God. Oh.
A scandalous affair caught on camera. An on-duty officer and a married teacher got carried away on an elementary school campus, messing around when kids may still have been present. Now he lost his job and she's resigned. So what's ahead for these ill-fated lovers? This is Scandal, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Gillespie. A one-time D.A.R.E police officer is now in some hot water after having a relationship with a married teacher who wasn't his wife. But that's not all. Not only were they engaged in an affair, they messed around at the elementary school where they both worked. Now, it's unclear exactly how far they went, but according to reports, there was sexual activity. At first, this officer even denied it before finally fessing up. But let's backtrack a minute, though, and lay out everything we know about the case so far. This is Brian Gilley, a one-time drug abuse resistance education officer, or D.A.R.E officer, with the Lebanon Police Department in Tennessee. That's about 30 miles east of Nashville. Now, Gilley was assigned to work at Castle Heights Elementary School, where Shelby Moss was a teacher. One thing led to another, and Gilley and Moss started having a relationship. And we have screenshots of their conversations, too, for some more insight about what this relationship really was. So, for example, one of them messaged, "Good morning. I hope you have a great weekend, babe. I love you and can't wait to hear/see pictures from your weekend." The other replied, "Good morning, beautiful. Thank you, and I love you. I hope you have a great weekend. Kissing face emoji." Now, another exchange seems to be around the holidays. One of them, saved only as C in the contacts, writes, "You and all the sweets this past week, LOL." The other replies, "LOL, don't judge me. I'm way worse." The other then replies, "We are getting a picture together Thursday. You're," the wrong form of "you're," "gonna die at my outfit." C replies with the eyes emoji and says, "Are you gonna be festive?" The response is, "All the Christmas music we listen to in your truck is getting me in the spirit. Yes, I'm being festive." You're, once again, wrong form of you're going to love it, LOL. Ah, I love it. Now, in these next texts, Gilley and Moss seem to be planning a meetup. One of them writes, "Okay, I'll leave now instead of walking by y'all and go get my truck." "Okay, babe, thank you." The next text, "Headed your way." "Okay, I'm here, back seat." Later on in that same conversation, the same screenshot, the texts continue at 5:28 p.m. C says, "Kendra just sent me a friend request." "Seriously?" is the response. And then the next response is a screenshot of this Facebook friend request. But we have more than just text messages like this one. There's actually some of their relationship and relations caught on body camera video.
Okay. Oh, God. Oh.
Mind you, that little snippet happened only minutes after an elementary school student was just in the classroom. So here's what happened. This video was recorded on August 29th, 2024. And the video starts off pretty normal, but quickly it goes blurry because, as you'll hear, a student is in the classroom with both Moss and Gilley.
Over here, I can't find it anymore.
You can look.
This is where I was sitting before I left. There it is.
Sorry, I don't know. You can look for it. Okay.
Yay!
See ya.
Bye. She.
The student was looking for something, and when they found it, they left the classroom. And that means Gilley and Moss are now alone in the classroom. And they start by chatting about this student, and they seem to have an inside joke about another officer.
Supposedly that's Hensley's favorite word.
Yeah,
She told me yesterday at the gossip table that I'm a little bit cooler, but we can't tell Officer Hensley. I was like, oh!
Because he came in here one day and she was eating lunch in there with me. And she was like, "What's my favorite officer doing?" And I was like, "Oh." And said, "But get her to say that again." And Officer Gilley said, and he was like, "Oh, no, that's not like that. She's got my back." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, because she fist bumped me in front of him, and he got so mad.
Yeah.
And so the next day, she completely ignored me. So then yesterday, she told me, she was like, "Well, he told me I had to ignore you, but you're a little cooler. I was like, that can be our secret. I told her, like, that can be our little secret.
At this point in the video, Moss says she has to go, and Gilley reminds her she has an appointment, but he promises he's going to see her tomorrow.
Well, I'm about to have to go.
Yeah, you do gotta go.
So,
You gotta get to your appointment.
huh?
You gotta get to your appointment.
I gotta be there at I could wiggle a few minutes, but
You gotta go.
Huh?
You gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow, though.
will you? I guess see me tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't make a point to come see you.
Okay. That's fine. Are you going out the store that way?
Well, I'll go out that door.
I'll stop that door too. After you do.
Here's where the blur is lifted off the video, and it's really where things start to heat up. So you can now see Moss completely, who, by the way, is wearing a t-shirt with the school on it. Now she walks over to Gilley and hugs and kisses him. And it kind of just keeps going. She pulls back, they laugh, but then go in for some more. And finally, Gilley says he has to leave.
Okay. Oh, God. Oh.
If it wasn't clear they were in a classroom before, it's very apparent as Gilley leaves the classroom and exits to what is obviously a school campus.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Now, like I said, that incident from the body cam happened on August 29th, 2024, but allegedly the following month in September of 2024, something more nefarious happened. Now, this incident wasn't caught on body camera video, but it did happen at the school. It happened after school hours, but as Gilley later admits, it's possible some students were still hanging around campus. That's when Gilley and Moss engaged in some, quote, sexual activity. It's unclear to exactly what extent, but something inappropriate happened. Now, when Gilley was later confronted about all of this, he told investigators that no sexual contact happened while he was on duty. But later, he walked all of that back and admitted to the relationship, as well as saying some students could have been present when it happened. There eventually was an internal affairs investigation by the Lebanon Police Department that found Gilley and Moss did engage in a relationship. In April of this year, Gilley spoke out at a decertification hearing. According to Fox 17, he said, quote, "I was very embarrassed. I know I've done wrong, but I've also impacted that community in so many ways. It was a mistake and it will never happen again." The next month, in May, the Tennessee Peace Officer Standards Training Post Commission voted to decertify him. That means as of now, Gilley has been banned from serving as a law enforcement officer anywhere in the state of Tennessee, and the ban is permanent. As for Moss, she received a 2-day suspension and later resigned from the school district in May. Now, the district has since reported the issue to the Tennessee State Board of Education, and the issue is still under review, so TBD if she's going to face any sort of punishment from them. Now, the Lebanon Special School District did release a statement about this entire incident to local station Fox 17. It reads, quote, "The Lebanon Special School District expects all employees to uphold the highest standards of professional conduct at all times. In December of 2024, we were made aware that a teacher engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a police officer after hours while on campus. The district immediately conducted a thorough investigation and took appropriate disciplinary action in line with our policies and procedures. We want to assure our families and communities that we take all concerns seriously and act promptly to maintain a safe and respectful learning environment for everyone." The Lebanon Police Department also released a statement reading, quote, "Upon receiving a complaint on former officer Brian Gilley, our staff committed to an immediate internal investigation. During the investigation, several issues, including serious policy violations, were identified. The policy violations also included being untruthful during the inquiry. These facts were presented during a post-decertification hearing. While Gilley's actions did not align with our department's standards or policies, the conduct was not criminal in nature, did it not involve children, and did not occur in the presence of children or in the classroom. We hold our officers to the highest standards of professionalism and integrity. Gilley's actions fell short of those expectations that our community demands and deserves." All right, lots to talk about in this case. So let's bring on today's expert guest, litigator Rich Schoenstein. Rich, one of our favorite guests, thank you for coming on with us. And I wanted to ask kind of an unusual question, I guess, to start. I mean, having an affair with a coworker isn't illegal, but when does it cross the threshold from whatever it is into something a little bit messier, what we're seeing here?
Well, listen, I think there's a fair amount of workplace romance out there. It happens. So when is it messier? Well, the first time it's messier is when it happens at the workplace. So when the relations are taking place on the employer's property, I think that's far messier. There's a whole host of issues that come up when you have sort of workplace relationships, especially if there's a power imbalance on one side of the relationship or another. So there can be issues if it's a boss and a subordinate. There can be a whole bunch of issues, but I think when you have those relationships on site, you're adding something extra.
And that's definitely what we have here, right? I mean, there's body cam of this couple making out. Let's just say it. They're, kissing and touching and everything on camera. And then in a different instance, not caught on body cam, I guess they had sexual activity, quote unquote, on campus. So let's pause and talk about the body cam first. I mean, is kissing on school property on the workplace grounds, is that cause for way concern? Did they way cross the line just by kissing and hugging?
Well, two issues, right? One is, can you have any kind of romantic physical interaction at a workplace? And probably not. I mean, that's something that an employer could legitimately fire you for. But here, the workplace is a school. So there are kids around. And that really makes it taboo and unacceptable to have any kind of relations at the school. Seems to me to have crossed the line.
And I think what I want to highlight in all of this too is not that this would be okay at a high school, but it wasn't a high school. It was an elementary school
Right.
where we have young children. You can hear in the body cam, the kids' voices, they sound like a young child. So to walk in and see that with an officer and your teacher could be pretty jarring. And then the next part, this sexual activity. Now, I've done some research about all of this, and it doesn't get into explicits how far they went as far as, did they have intercourse, like what was it, we don't know, but it was sexual activity. And this is tricky because it was after hours, but kids have practice after school. They could have been hanging around for, daycare, whatever it is, because it's an elementary school. So that the sexual activity at school, after school, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So because it's a school, because there can be kids around at any time, I think it's just totally inappropriate to have any kind of physical activity on the school premises, especially in elementary school. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess it's marginally better that it was after school than, during the day or at lunch or something, but it's still inappropriate. It still crosses the line.
So, my next question for all of this is why isn't there any sort of criminal charges here? Because if they had this sexual activity, they could have been exposing themselves. I'm going to just assume that they were in some way in a state of undress while on this campus. And like I said, students could be there for after school programs or rehearsal or practice, whatever. Someone could have walked in and seen this. So, is this what happened grounds for any sort of criminal investigation?
I mean, I guess technically it probably could be grounds of some sort of, child endangerment or indecent exposure. You could probably come up with some charges, but I just wonder if that's appropriate or necessary here. You have two people now who have been, let's face it, publicly shamed about this. It's cost them, at least it's cost the officer his job. It may cost the teacher her job. If they're going to lose employment and they're going to be publicly embarrassed, do we really need criminal proceedings for this? I don't know that it rose to that level.
And let's talk about that too, because the officer, as you pointed out, did eventually lose his job. There was an internal affairs investigation, and they found out about all of this. And I'm wondering what really was the nail in the coffin there, so to speak, because we have the body cam showing them making out. They're not having sex, but we have the body cam. Still unclear why it was turned on, by the way. But do you think that's what it was that really pushed this over to the next level, that we have video recording of all this?
Maybe the video. I mean, the video is not that shocking compared to the kinds of videos that we look at from time to time in some of these cases. So it is what it is. I think the fact that it gained some public notoriety and came out, probably they felt they needed to discharge him from his duty. He was sent to the school to do his job as a police officer. So really, he shouldn't have been using that opportunity to have any kind of relations with anybody, and certainly not on the premises of the school. So I do think it's a fireable offense. I have no idea what his job record was. I have no idea if there were other issues that predated that or anything that laid a precedent or that they considered. So I think it was a fireable offense, but probably it was the notoriety of the whole thing that pushed it over the edge.
And we did see some text messages too in all of this showing that they kind of had this ongoing relationship. I think you're right. The text messages weren't that salacious to me, honestly. In some of them, they were asking, when are we going to meet up? Or are you wearing a holiday outfit? Like very basic to me. But I think the notoriety part is the fact that the female, the teacher, was married and engaged in this affair with her coworker, let's say, this officer. And maybe that's why it got so much notoriety and all of that. Because to me, what do you think about the texts? They're not that crazy to me.
So the texts don't bother me, and the fact that it's an extramarital affair, I don't think makes it a fireable offense. Look, if the officer had come into the school, met somebody, they had exchanged phone numbers, he had gone home, he had called her, they had had a relationship, it had nothing to do with the school, it didn't touch the school, they're consenting adults. I don't know that any of that makes it a termination activity from employment. It's the fact that some of it transpired on school premises that puts it in a whole different ballgame. The text, they can text each other. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it all kind of goes back to it being at a school and the fact that she was a teacher there, he was the officer. Because to your point, it's not illegal to have an affair. It's not illegal to text someone and have a texting relationship or sext them or whatever they're doing. That's fine. But it's the school part that's the bad part. And we talked about
Right.
him a bit, that he's now been banned from being a law enforcement officer really in any way throughout the state of Tennessee forever, permanently banned. Now, for her, she was suspended for about 2 days and then resigned after that. What do you think about the responses to each of these things? I mean, it is different. One's a law enforcement officer and one's a teacher, but she didn't have quite the same repercussions that he did.
Yeah, well, we don't know what the repercussions are because we don't know if she'll be able to get another job in another school district anywhere in the state based on having this on her record. Um, it is kind of pretty severe repercussions when you think about it. This was a youngish police officer, and he's now banned from being an officer anywhere in the state for the rest of his life. Again, I don't know how widespread the repercussions against the teacher are going to be, but they're pretty severe. I don't know about that. I don't know if they both need lifetime bans based on what happened here. I mean, what they did is clearly wrong, clearly a mistake. They shouldn't have done anything on school property. They're both in positions of trust. The police officer, even more so than the school teacher, I think, in fairness, but they both have jobs where they're in positions of trust and they have to sort of earn that. and keep earning it. So I think it's a really tough call as to how much punishment was necessary.
And I do wonder for the police officer in all of this, if maybe he faced a more severe punishment, let's call it, is because of, as you pointed out, he is a police officer, number one. And then number two, when we had this internal affairs investigation, I guess, detectives or investigators who were speaking with him asked him, hey, were you, messing around with this girl? What were you up to? And he was like, no, nothing. And he denied it at first and then owned up to it and said, yes, okay, fine, we did do this. So that initial denial, the whole lying to a police officer, I mean, he is a police officer himself, or he was at the time. What do you make about that, the initial denial of it all?
Yeah, that's a bad fact. That did not help him. The fact that he was dishonest about it in the first instance didn't come clean. I think that was to his detriment. So I don't know if he would have been punished less severely if he had been forthright about it when he was asked, but I don't think it did him any favors. He's not just a police officer, he was a public facing police officer. He was someone that department put in a position to go into schools and to talk to students and teachers. And that again is a heavy position of trust. And so when that person engages in misconduct and then lies about it, I do understand why his department took umbrage with that.
So again, we've talked about her just briefly and the repercussions, and you pointed out we still don't exactly know. Is the rest of her career over? What could happen? And I know that it's under review right now through the Tennessee State Board is kind of looking through all of this and seeing what they can see in regards to all of this. But with her, I mean, usually when I do stories like this, honestly, on Law and Crime, it's a teacher who has sex with a student and then they are a sex offender for multiple reasons. Not only is it underage, but also it's an imbalance of power. But here, this teacher did not have sex with a student. It was just sexual activity on campus with a different consenting adult. So should she face any sort of sex offender status in all of this?
No, I don't think so. I agree with you. There's no uh, nothing here directed towards a student. So it's a totally different category. I don't think either of them is a sex offender. They're two, again, consenting adults who made a bad decision about where to have some of their activity. I also don't know like how many times they engaged in that activity at the school versus somewhere else. That might make a little bit of difference in how I assess it, but they're not sex offenders. I think that would be overboard to characterize it like that.
And we've talked about the criminal side of things. It seems that there's not going to be an investigation. And per what you said, it doesn't seem like it's warranted even. What about the civil side of things? Just because it is very sensitive, the fact that this was a school, an elementary school, there were young students, even in the body camera video, we see or hear rather the student interacting with the officer and the teacher. Both of these people likely knew a lot of students very well. Could there be any sort of civil litigation in regards to all of this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it would be tough to come up with a claim. Like if I wanted to be a creative plaintiff's attorney, can I come up with a claim based on the students, on behalf of the students, that they've somehow been injured by this? Would be different if one of them had walked in on it. Then I think you have a very tangible claim, perhaps that they've been exposed to something inappropriate, and there might be some claim actually against the school or even against the police force, because if you're going to make a claim like that as a plaintiff, you want to attack the deepest pockets possible. And a fired teacher or resigned teacher and a fired police officer aren't going to get you very far. So you would want to go after the state. But I don't think there's enough here that touches the students to allow any civil litigation. Now, by the way, the teacher or the police officer could potentially bring civil claims that their terminations are somehow unjust. But I don't think that would get very far either. I don't see any civil litigation here getting very far.
This overall is just such an interesting case because it's unlike a lot of the ones that we've covered here on Law and Crime when a teacher is involved. It's much different, the fact that we have two adults. And it's interesting to see the possibilities from all realms here. Rich Schoenstein, you walked us through all of them. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this scandal today.
My pleasure. Great topic.
That's where this case leaves us for today. If you liked what you saw, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Scandalous News, for all things scandal and true crime. And make sure to send tips our way to scandal@lawandcrime.com is our tip line. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.